Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me this evening is a phenomenal woman who I actually have the pleasure of being acquainted with on a regular basis. She is my sister in Christ. We attend church together, her and her husband, her family, beautiful family. She's a wife, she's a mom, an author now, and most importantly, though, she's a woman of God who's taken out time out of her very busy schedule to hang out with us this evening to share a little bit of her journey, a little bit of her story, with the hopes of encouraging, uplifting, and inspiring others, especially as it comes to dealing with the challenging times in life that we all deal with in some fashion or form. So, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and honor to introduce to you our special guest this evening, Miss Keena Nelson. Keena, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Joseph, for having me. I was shocked. I was like, "What? I didn't even know you did a podcast." But I'm grateful to be here and to for all your listeners and your viewers too on YouTube. And for me,
Absolutely.
Keena Nelson, I am originally from Westland, Michigan, and that is like a 15-minute drive outside the city limits of Detroit. Went to Inkster Public School. Shout out to the Crooked Eye. And I am a fraternal twin, so I have a twin sister, and we both live here in Texas. And been with my company, my employer for 28 years. Oh my gosh, 28 years. Started out in Bloomington, Illinois, and I gave myself 2 years. It was a farming town. I'm not from a farming town, from the suburbs, kind of a city in a way, but still slow pace. I was like, I'll give myself 2 years to live out there. Yeah. So 28 years later, I'm still with the same company.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, again, Keena, thank you for being with us this evening. I'm excited to hear your story. I know you're going to have a powerful message that's going to be a blessing to us all. So I'm not going to waste any more time. We're going to go ahead and jump right into this. And as you started to allude to a little bit about your background, I always like to take on every episode, I like to take out the opportunity to have a moment of reflection, if you will, on exactly where one's journey begins, because I truly do believe that as we venture through our lives, especially again as far back as childhood, that there are certain encounters, there are certain individuals that we meet, certain experiences that we go through that, although they may not make sense in the moment, as you get older, as you have a better understanding of your purpose in life and what God has simply created for you to do and to be impactful in, you start to notice that the dots start to connect, the light bulbs start to come on. It starts to begin to make sense, why, even in the midst of some of the storms, why you had to go through those things to get to where you are. Because had you not done so, it might have been less effective, less impactful for you to be able to change lives in the way that you may be able to do to be able to live out again your purpose for being here the way that you're able to do so. So, with that said, if you would, let's take a moment to reflect back for you the beginnings of where your journey starts. Take us back to those early days of growing up and share with us what was it like for you growing up, fond memories that you have about growing up. And if there's, of course, any challenges to come to mind, you can share that as well. Just kind of give us the backdrop of where your story begins.
Certainly. So once again, grew up in Westland, Michigan. So, anyone from Michigan, we always use the mitten because that's how the state is shaped. I'm from right there. But growing up, like I said, I am a twin, and we're very close. We was raised by a single mother. Our father passed away when we were about 18 months old, so we didn't grow up with our father at all. And my mother never remarried. She focused on us, but our family rallied around her. Is the seventh child out of 8 kids. So yeah, so we had aunts and uncles, cousins. We had our cousins that grew up around us. So we grew up with 8 brothers and sisters of cousins. That was very close. But then we had a whole host of first cousins on her side of the family and my side of the family, and we were close knit. And my mother she just took care of us. She made sure that my sister and I went on vacation every year. We had every baby doll known on the earth, and they were black baby dolls. We had some Barbies, but anything we wanted, she got for us. But she also taught us the value of earning it, not just being a spoiled brat. So she spoiled us. I'll just be honest with you. She's spoiled. We have family get-togethers almost every weekend in the summertime. It's like when she said, "I'm firing up the grill," we already knew, oh my gosh, the family coming over. Yeah, they did, and we had a ball. We had a ball. My sister and I, we used to dress together. We still dress alike even to this day. We will call each other FaceTime and like, "Oh my God, we're doing the same thing," you know. So that's how they taught us. We used to fight when we was young, but we don't fight no more. We don't because my mother she stopped that when we got about teenagers. Yeah, her licks was harder than ours. So, but now we just have fun. We do things together. My family and I, at least on my mom's side, are very very close. So we talk all the time. We even vacation all the time together. Um, with my father not being there, we really didn't know the void of not having our father because my mother was there and she made sure that someone was there. A cousin of ours, she moved in when we were about 6 years old, and she's always been there. She was our babysitter, our big sister, our second mom, our policeman, sergeant. We call her that, the drill sergeant. And without her, I don't know where my mother, where she would have got the help because she was a living babysitter. But she also took care of us too, and she still take care of us. She's almost 70 years old, my cousin, and my mother passed in 2017, but my cousin, she still looks out for my sister and I and the rest of the family. And if you saw her, you saw my sister and I. If you saw us, you saw her. So it was like, oh my gosh, you were the oldest of 8 kids, but you kind of stopped her life to make sure that my sister and I was well taken care of. And her father, who was my uncle, we call him Uncle Daddy. He made sure that my sister and I and all us cousins who didn't have their fathers, he was there for us, no matter what. He took us to school when we went to college. He made sure that we knew how to change a flat tire, knew how to change an oil in our car, made sure we even finances. He just talked to us about that. I'm like, wow, you have 8 kids of your own, but you made sure all of us nieces and nephews who didn't have children, not children, but our fathers, you took care of us. Who does that? Who does that? And I thank God for him. But as far as those were some challenging times, not really knowing why our father died, but then again, not feeling that lack either. But then until we was about teenagers, it's like, oh wow, I don't have no one to tell me I'm beautiful. But my mother did, but not a man. Didn't realize that until I got older. We were bullied. I was bullied. My sister was more bullied than I was, but still, a bully is a bully. And I had to learn how to stand up for myself. I had to learn to stand up for my sister. I'm very close to my sister. Anyone talk bad about my sister, even to this day, you and I will have some problems. But it was a challenging time because it's like I've always loved people. I've always been a helpful person, and I'm still am. But I'm like, well, why are you picking on me? Because I look different. I was thin, arms and legs and big lips. That's all you saw as a little girl. Arms and legs. And I asked my mom, like, Mama, why do they talk about my lips and all that? They said, don't worry about it. When you get older, they know they won't talk about them anymore. I'm like, but what about right now? We going to school and kids are older than us, picking on us, and we were tall for our age, but they knew us. But until my cousin who lived with us, she stepped in at one incident where some girls, like they were like in junior high. We're still in elementary school, like fifth, sixth grade. These are seventh, eighth graders. We came home crying one night, one day, and it's like so and so they just messed with us around the corner. She said, "Okay, let's go around the corner." We're like, "No, no." She said, no, no, we're going around the corner. We're going to handle this." They said, "Oh, Miss Taylor, we didn't know that's your family. We're sorry." She said, "It doesn't matter. Y'all are junior high. These are elementary school kids. You shouldn't pick on nobody." They was like, okay. And I guess they never picked with us. And I guess the word spread because no one messed with us. Nobody else messed with us. And I had five male cousins that we grew up with, very close. And they like, oh yeah, okay, we know who you are. It was like, yeah, that's your brothers. No, they're my cousins. Oh, they're your brothers. Okay, whatever. So we just ran with it. But for every holiday, we have family there. Um, every holiday. And our birthdays are close to Christmas, so December 22nd. And we always had birthday parties. My mother made sure my sister and I had a full birthday party with full presents. And then 3 days later, here come Christmas, a tree full of presents. And I come to realize in my adult life that our cousins hated us because of that, because it seemed like, yeah, we received so many gifts. Like, well, doggone, we didn't get that much for our birthday or Christmas. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, that was our mom. So hey, you have birthday parties too. Everyone have a birthday party, and everyone gets some Christmas presents. But since it was two of us, it was a lot. It was a lot of presents. But as a kid of the '70s and '80s, spending time outside, just enjoying life. Um, always wanted to play. I hated taking naps. My sister loved taking naps. It was so we're we're twins, but we opposite. So I was like, okay, I have to wait for her. Still to this day, why are you sleeping? Yeah, but we did family drive-ins, or went to family drive-ins with the family. Cedar Point. Anybody from the Midwest going to Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio? That was a highlight. Going to Canada. That's I don't consider Canada another country. To us, it's just across the water in Detroit. So it's like, hey, there's Canada. Um, just spending a lot of time outside, going to Blockbuster Video on Fridays. Yes. So that is us. Um, mostly of the challenges was just bullies. And I always wanted to do something in my life. I've always wanted to help. Like I said before, I didn't know how to do that. Like, when I get older, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Always wanted, but I just didn't know what yet. So that was how it was growing up.
Wow, wow. Um, First off, let me thank you for your transparency, for sharing as you have. I mean, it sounds like like you said, an awesome childhood growing up. And yeah, anytime you're coming up in a single parent household, there's always going to be, just by default of that, potential challenges that arise. But it's always wonderful to hear, and having grown up in a single parent household myself, it's always wonderful to know when you have, family and friends and people who just kind of came around to take you under their wings and pour into you, to love on you, in many ways to treat you like that you were their own biological children. And so to have that type of experience, to be in that particular type of setting, is truly a blessing. And and again, it teaches you some things, to not take life for granted, to not to fail, to not fail to appreciate the sacrifices that people make. For you to be able to see your mom make sacrifices, for you to be able to see other family members make sacrifices to be there for you, I think it sets a tone, it sets a platform for you, that as you start to get older, you whether you realize it or not, you carry that work ethic, you carry that character, that integrity, that empathy, you carry all of that into adulthood. And and ultimately, when you of course make that connection with Christ, he begins to reveal to you what all of this meant, why all of it matters, and that this was not just something that happens by accident. It wasn't just an unfortunate incident for you to lose your dad at such a young age, and have to deal with bullying and things of that nature. None of that stuff is, again, accidental, but it's more so by divine design that it happens. And so that's why I like to take these moments to really reflect on that. And I'm sure as you tell us more about your journey, it's going to be, begin to make all of those connections. It's going to trigger, why all of the path that you're currently on, why are you here now, and how that impact is going to be for those that God is going to position you and put you in front of to be able to pour into. And of course, you're going to get a chance to talk about that a little bit later. But I can already sense, just from what you just shared from your early beginnings, that again, this was all set up. It was all set up and designed this way. Even down to you building a little tough skin, with dealing with bullying and perhaps lacking, as you said earlier, um, that male confirmation in terms of, you're beautiful, you're valued, you're special, that you're more than just the skinny girl with the full lips, but that those full lips will speak words one day that people didn't know were inside of you to come out. That skinny body will be able to move in ways that maybe somebody else can't move and can't get into places that other people can't get into. So it's not about the look of someone, but it's what's going on inside of them. So I appreciate again you sharing that, because there's people who, of course, tuning in to this episode that, dealt with similar things and still struggle with that, the trauma of it all, even in their adult years. And so for you to share like this is really helpful, because people need to kind of come to grips with it all, and not so much, it's not about get over it when I say come to grips, but understand that your value is far beyond what other people's opinions of you are, because we do get caught up, especially in this day and age with social media and all the things that are out there, where we start to compare ourselves. The world has created this view of what the perfect person looks like, what's the ideal look, the appearance, that it somehow measures, again, your value, your worth. And being a child of God, being connected with Christ, we understand and know the value goes much deeper than a social media platform, than how many likes and followers someone has. But that, no, there's a much deeper purpose. And then until you understand that, only then will you truly recognize and value who you are, and not be so concerned as much about, again, the thoughts and opinions of others, because ultimately those are not what matter the most. So again, I appreciate you sharing that. So Keena, obviously you had a phenomenal childhood, twin sister, very close knit family. And as I'm sure you've experienced, you go through your childhood. Ultimately, as you venture off into adulthood, there are going to be more experiences that come. There are going to be more encounters, some good, some challenging, or what have you. But nevertheless, it's just a part of life. But you live long enough, as I always say on the podcast, you live long enough, you're going to come across a time when every now and then you're going to get hit with a storm in life that hits a little different. Something that, with all of the things that I've been able to endure, withstand, overcome, that everybody has that time in life where something occurs that makes them feel burdened down, weighed down in a way that they don't see a way out. It creates a sense of fear, worry, anxiety, frustration, just trying to figure out, like, how am I supposed to get out of this? Is this the end of my story? Is everything that I thought I was supposed to do, any dreams that I have, is it now all over because of this? That said, tell us about a time when you felt exactly like that, trapped, helpless, hopeless, didn't see a way through, didn't see a way out, money couldn't fix it, your educational background couldn't fix it, your work experiences couldn't fix it. It's just you and this storm, and you didn't know what to do with that. Obviously, you're here today, so it lets us know that God made a way for you to get through it. But maybe at that time you weren't quite so sure, you weren't feeling that confidence as you do today, as now being delivered from whatever that situation is. Tell us, kind of walk us through, what was that like for you, and what was ultimately the turning point when you began to see some light at the end of the tunnel and coming up out of it.
Will do. And before I get too deep into it, I have to go back and mention my mother. Like I said, she's single parent, but she was strong as far as her sense of who she is. Not only was she just our mother, but she was the caregiver too of the whole family. She made sure we rallied and everything. But she always, when I came to her with the bullies, she instilled in me, like, you are who you are. God made you the way He wanted to make you. But I also was angry with God because why did He take my father? That was very hurtful. Like, why all my other cousins have their fathers? How come we don't have our father? And they always, when I say they, I mean our family, both sides of our family, was like, oh, I look like my father, my sister looks like our mother. So they always said, and she has, of course, she has traits of our father too, but as far as the face wise, I look just like him. And they always would say, how he was, what kind of man he was. He was, joyful and singing, loved to cook, loved to laugh, loved to sing. And, they would go on and on, like how he would rally with the family and everything. And they were like, oh my God, we're so sorry. That must hurt you guys. I was like, no, we felt sorry for y'all. Because it seemed like y'all the one that missed out. It seemed like we didn't. But leading up to my experience as I got older and what you said, you just keep living life. That's my mother. She was like, just keep living, but get close to God. So she was the one that helped me to get close to God and not be angry with Him. And even and I reached into my 20s and 30s, I was like, okay, whatever. But I had a longing. I'm like, okay, God. I've been trying things my way. My sister's been witnessing to me since she was 16. She was saved, more saved than I was, I should say. We both got baptized at 10. But as far as when we reached our teenage years, she was more into the church. I was in the streets. Yeah, I was. I was worldly. She was not. But as I got older, I graduated from college. I landed a job. My career started in Bloomington, and I started to meet other folks. And my mother always instilled in me, make sure you get a church home. Along with my aunt, you need a covering. What? What's a covering? You need someone to teach you the word of God, but not only just teach it to you, live the word of God, but get into a church that's going to help you grow. I mean, I've heard her say that over and over to me, and I did. And I met so many wonderful people through this church. It was a multicultural church, so it wasn't just one race of church. It was a mixture, and I loved it. We had a ball. We grew close. We still close to this day. We still keep in contact. And I became close with one of my church members' son, and we were kind of dating in a way, but the traumatic experience was his death. He died by suicide, and I didn't know until I had just seen him maybe like that Friday, maybe that Sunday. I was like, "Okay, well, where is he?" And I went to his home. I mean, I'm like, "Well, where is his neighbor?" Didn't know anything. So a couple of days later, I come back, and the neighbor's like, "Oh my God, he died by suicide." I'm like, "Wait, what?" I've seen death. I've been to many funerals through my family. Death didn't scare me, but that seemed like it impacted me in a way like I've never had before. And I was about an hour drive from my house in Bloomington. My family had to come from Michigan to come get me because I couldn't drive back. I was scared. I was like, and me, I'm thinking I'm strong. Like, what is wrong, girl? Go ahead and go drive back home. But I just couldn't leave. And I was like, well, why did he do that? I never known someone that close to me to die by suicide. It was a hanging. I'm like, what the heck was going on? Why couldn't he, and then I got angry, like, why did we always talk, why couldn't he just tell me what was going on? I didn't know, and went through the funeral and everything. Two of my friends stayed back with me. My family had to go back home to Michigan to get back to work and, get back to their lives, and I was fine. I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay, it's whatever." But no, I was not fine. I was at work. I'm working with about 10,000 people in the building, but I felt alone. I felt isolated. And I can hear, and I say this was the enemy telling me, "You're gonna die like how he did." I'm like, "No, I'm not." But I can feel a sense of heaviness on my chest. I can feel fear. Like I was afraid to even speak about what was going on with me because I'm like, I'm strong. I don't want to look weak, but am I weak? And it's like, yeah, you weak because you're gonna die just like how he did. I'm like, no, I'm not. And I was like, I don't want to die like that. I'm screaming inside, but I'm in a corporate setting. I'm like, I can't scream. They probably send me home or take me to medical. It's like, okay, you need to take a leave of absence. But really, it was that scary. It was about a week. And my one of my close friends, she said, you know what? This is the time when you need to use the word of God to fight. I didn't tell her anything, but I guess she can sense it or she saw it on my face. And she said, you have to fight. I don't know what to tell you, but fight. I'm like, dang, you knew what I was going through? She said, yeah, it happened to me when my father died. Just use the word and you stand on that word and you pray. I was like, okay. Okay, I will do that. And at that time, I was getting closer to God. I was reading my word. I was doing my devotionals. I was at church at every time the doors were open. I was there. I was in the choir. I was like, yes, I'm learning this stuff. I'm loving it. I'm learning with my church members more of the word, just having a relationship with God. And then this happens. I'm like, well, gee, what the heck's going on? But I remember at work, I was going to get lunch, and I literally was about to have a nervous breakdown. I don't know what it was. It was like my chest was beating so heavy, I couldn't breathe. And I was like, oh my God, I'm about to have an anxiety attack, about to hyperventilate. And I said, oh my God, Lord, you are my shepherd. You have not given me the spirit of fear. And literally that moment, I felt better. I said, oh, the word works. Okay. Well, let me use more of it then. So Psalms 23 is my favorite scripture of all time. And so I was reciting it throughout the whole day. I get home. I said, Satan, you are a liar. God have not given me the spirit of fear, because that fear was on me. And I saw dark shadows around me everywhere I went. And it wasn't just shadows of people walking. No, I saw like shadows around me. It didn't scare me, but I'm like, what is that? You know how you kind of saw something, you're like, wait, what is that? I saw that and I didn't know what it was, but I did. I said, God has not given me the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and of a sound mind. And I declare that in Jesus' name. I'm telling you, Joseph, my God, I just praise God for that, because it lifted everything off of me. And joy came back in my heart. And I was like, oh my goodness, I was in a spiritual warfare. I didn't know that. I did not know I was in a spiritual warfare. And I was like, oh my goodness. I shared with another friend who was a close fan of mine. She had passed away, rest in peace. But she led the singles ministry. I was under her tutelage and everything. So I was telling her about it. And she had to tell me, she's like, you know what? Death was following you. I said, wait, what? She said, death. Those dark shadows was death following you. I'm like, but I wasn't afraid when she said that, because I knew God did not give me the spirit of fear. And I knew that he was my shepherd. Psalms 23. I was like, wait, what? She said, good thing that you fought, because you would have died by like how he did, by suicide, if you had not fought and used the word of God. That was very traumatic for me. I had never ever experienced anything in my life. I have not experienced that type of tragedy ever. I have some tragedy, but I had two miscarriages, but to that point, my relationship with God was strong, and my family and I, we healed from that. I miss them every day, but I'm healed from that. But as far as what dealing with that suicide death and my spiritual warfare, that got me over, and that drew me closer to God, because I know He will give you the desires of your heart. You delight in Him, and he can do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. I believe in his word wholeheartedly, 100%, because that helped me through that. And like I said, it again drew me closer to God. I can hear my mother's voice in my head. Keep living. God loves you. He ain't gonna let you fall. God loves you. It's like, wow. And that was so true.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. Again, appreciate you sharing as you have. It's 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 unimaginable to have someone close in your life to not only pass away, but then to pass away in the manner of suicide. So I won't even begin to say that I understand what that's like. I've never experienced it quite at that and to that degree. I do know what it's like to lose a close friend and unexpectedly, and the devastation that comes from that. But as you were sharing, one of the things that was I was trying to process through, kind of going back again to how we started the show and the beginnings of it all, and I was also trying to make that connection into our title for the show. And of course, for your show, I don't know if you caught it, but your title is for your show is U Turn. And I started to think, you when I think about this experience that you went through with this suicide, and I'm no psychologist, no counselor or anything like that, but immediately I thought about the pain that you felt about not growing up with your dad. You lost someone who, even I know at 18 months, it's hard to have formulated a relationship, but there's always going to be a bond of some sort between parent and child, regardless of age. And so to not have my dad's presence. He leaves me prematurely at such a young age, and not have that. And then later in life, to have another close person, a male figure on top of that, to be close with, and even to, like I said, at some point in time, even dated. We were tight like that. I thought we were close enough to share anything with one another, even if it was something difficult that we were dealing with. And then he takes his life. So now here I have somebody else close to me, male figure, and they're gone. And so it's natural for you to have this frustration, even this anger, if you will, with God. And a lot of people, kind of draw back from the idea of, is it wrong to be mad at God? It's not wrong to be mad, and God doesn't take offense to you being mad because he understands that in our frail condition that we're in, that the devastations, the traumas of such as this are going to be hard for us to process. But he allows us to go through certain experiences like this, not because he wants our lives to be miserable, not because he's trying to bring us down. He's trying to get us to make that U turn to him instead of running from the difficulties and the challenges of life, instead of trying to block out the things that hurt us, the things that make us feel some kind of way, whether it's, again, loss of father, the bullying, the absence of the affirmations, from particularly from male people. Not because I'm not a beautiful woman, not because I'm not intelligent, but just it just wasn't happening, and I didn't understand why. And and it may have had you in a season, as you shared, when you compared yourself with with your twin sister, it may have had you in the season where I was more out in the streets than I was chasing him. And so, because he already had a plan for your life, because he already sees you as his child, that you are of value and of great worth to him. Again, he has to allow us to kind of go through this time until we realize that we can't, nor should we, try to do life without him. Whether things are going well or whether things are getting rocky and rough for us. And so he had to take you through a season where he knew that doing so would bring you to a point where you were almost ready to break, but he wasn't going to allow you to do that. He was always there the whole time. He was never going to let you check out. He was never going to let you go too far with it. But he had to let it go far enough to where you would just kind of get to that point where it's just me and you. And he waited in anticipation for you to just call out to him. And when you did, he's thinking to himself, okay, and forgive me for thinking what trying to say what I think God was thinking, but I believe when he had that opportunity to hear you cry out to him, it brought great joy to him. It brought a sense of peace. It brought a sense of hope that, you know what, she's gonna be all right, and I'm getting ready to show her just how all right she's getting ready to be. In fact, I'm about to blow her mind in a way that she doesn't even realize is about to go down. Um, the days of the bullying, the days of feeling like nobody saw her value, her worth, the days of her even questioning her own self, her own talents, her own gifts, her own, whatever that is that you should have been embracing, that you should have been owning and being bold and proud about. Um, I'm getting ready to let her know, and once this light that I'm about to place on her is visible, it'll never she's never gonna lose that glow. She's never gonna lose that shine. It's gonna be, I like to call it, there's gonna be a godly swag about her. The anointing is gonna be clear. That when she steps in a room, just her mere presence around people is going to bring, somebody's going to be down, but when she steps in the room, they're going to immediately pick up just because she walked in the room, because she just has that covering, she just has that favor that only God can provide onto her. And so that's why I think what you share so far is so impactful, because there's a lot of people, men and women, who are dealing with these same struggles, these in fact some childhood traumas that they just have not had the opportunity to heal from, that they've just not had the opportunity to really process. You know, whether they just didn't have somebody to talk to about it, whether it was shame, whether it was, an unwillingness to forgive themselves or show themselves grace. Whatever that is, they haven't allowed themselves to do it. But God is saying, hey, I'm all of that. I got all the grace, all the mercy, all the love, all the comforting that you could ever need, and then some. And all you need to do is display a willingness to receive it. That's all you got to do. I'm not gonna make you jump through any hoops. You ain't got to go through no extra hurdles or anything. Just be willing. Just have a willing heart to receive me, and just watch me blow your mind. I'm glad to hear that you did that. And just little by little, step by step, it began to build that closeness, that intimacy, that bond, that relationship with him. And so now you do life in a way that's totally different, even in difficult times. You now, because you made that U-turn, you now kind of handle even those challenging times different. Yeah, you're still human, so it's going to impact you. You're going to still feel some kind of way about it, but you don't stay stuck in that moment anymore. Because maybe perhaps old Keena might have got stuck in that moment, would have been all angry and frustrated, and and wanting to scream out at the world. But now she said, you know what? This isn't the most comfortable feeling. This isn't the ideal time for this. But I know you, and I know how you moved the last time I was in a situation, and the time before that. Just even when you shared about the miscarriages, there's nothing light to take about a woman going through a miscarriage, especially, and you went through multiple ones. But I could just tell, even as you told the story, it wasn't that you were dismissing the pain behind it, but you said yourself, I was just able to process it different. But it was because of where you were at in your relationally, because of where you were at, that allowed you to do so. Because somebody else, had they not been relationally where you were at, it would have took them out. It would have crushed them. It would have devastated them in a way that perhaps they couldn't come back from, all because of that absence of the relationship. Which is why, for our listeners, it's so important for the relationship to be established, so that there is no times in life that will be too much for you to be able to bear, too much for you to be able to process and work through. It's not that challenging times won't come, because, as I've said many times, it's not a matter of if, but when they're gonna come. But how you process, how you receive, how you think about it, that's different. And again, it begins with that relationship with Christ. So again, I appreciate you sharing that, because this is such a powerful story that you're telling, and I really do believe that our listeners are being blessed as a result of this, because there's a lot of people who have dealt with some of the very, that we consider to be everyday type of stuff that people go through, but everybody doesn't handle it and process it the same way. And so you have to kind of figure out, well, what's the missing link there? Why do some get through it and others don't? Are they just bigger than me, badder than me, got more money than me, they're stronger than me? No, it's who they're connected to that makes the difference in all of that. So again, Keen, I appreciate you sharing that. So when you think about all of the challenges, of life, and of course, as you shared some major ones, suicide, bullying, perhaps low self-esteem, things of that nature. Um, Clearly, big things that you've dealt with in life, as others have. And sometimes life will throw storms your way, such as that. And then sometimes life is just life, and then it's just the normal day-to-day nuances that we deal with. I had the nuance this morning of rushing to work, and the police stopped me for speeding, but then I experienced the favor of God to have a police officer that showed me grace and said, I'm gonna give you a warning, and have a great day. So we have those experiences in life that we encounter, again, major or sometimes just life and type stuff. That said, when you find yourself facing challenging times, again, whether it's something major or just the day-to-day nuances of life, what is it that you personally like to do that just kind of works best for you to process dealing with that challenging moment, that thing that you're up against? It's just one of them days, the day that you got something that you got to face. How do you process through that? What is it, your routine, your regimen that you like to do that kind of works best for you?
Okay, glad you said that. Well, yeah, so it's been a lot of challenging times this here since COVID, I should say. Um, it's really I started my day off with devotional. I have to. I've done days without it, and I was, like a chicken with their head cut off, just running here and there, not knowing, okay, oh my God, did I pray? Dang, what was the word today? It's like, okay, Lord, did I do what you asked me to do? Here's my list. And it gets long and long and long, and I didn't do anything because I was trying to do everything. So I start off my day with devotion. So that's waking up, thanking God, praise and worship, prayer. I read the word, the scripture for the day, but I go in deeper. Okay, what does that mean? What else do I need to learn? And in my prayer time, I ask God, how should I spend my day? Who can I bless? And from that, it's like, okay, when I'm facing something challenging, okay, what does the word say? God, what does you say? Imma handle it the way I know how. Is just to go in and handle it, right? Because that's what I do. I like to solve problems. I went to school for math. I love puzzles. I like all that. I love numbers, but How do you want me to handle it? Because if I handle it, I might say some things that may not be right. I might do some things that may not be right, but I do lean on the scriptures a lot. I do. And because of what I've been through, I know that has helped me to get to where I am today. And I know it's going to help me further along and just to carry out, okay, what tasks I have in hand. Specifically, how can I be the best wife? How can I be the best mother? How can I be the best employer and entrepreneur? And I can't do that without God. I cannot do that without God. I can't see my life without Him. And you spoke about peace. After I did cry out to God and I started to build my relationship with Him, I mean, the peace is amazing. Even when my mother passed away, my sister and I mean, of course, we missed her, of course, during um, her homegoing services, crying, of course, but afterwards, it's like we were giddy, joyful, and peaceful. People are still like, can't believe you're not just all because everybody knew we were all close. But I had peace in the matter. God gave us that peace. He granted us that peace. We grieved her while she was still living, while her health was going down. But in the end, I knew where she was going, and I know where she's at because of her relationship with Christ. It was strong too, and it got stronger as she got older. And I still to this day have peace. Sounds kinda weird in her death, but I miss her, but not to the point where, "Oh my god, I'm distraught." And I know some people, they are struggling, they're still mourning, still grieving, but just knowing that I know where she's at and I know I'll get to see her again, that just gives me hope and joy. But dealing with, trying times, it has to I have to line it up with God's word. 'Cause if I don't, it's not gonna turn out right, or it'll be delayed, and then I won't have that peace. So that's why I come from a standpoint of peace. And if you're not going to vibe with me like that, okay, I'm sorry. I pray for you, but I'm moving in God's way. Yeah, that's about it.
Love that. Love that. I think it's always important when we have this segment of the show, and I've heard a variety of different approaches, and because again, there is no one way to do it, but I think one consistent thing, regardless of the approach, that I think is important, that I always want to point out and recognize is the fact that when we're talking about dealing with the storms of life, the challenges that come, big or small, it's so critical that you have a regimen or a routine that involves preparation before the storm. We talked about earlier, it's not a matter of if, but when. But nevertheless, just because you don't know that today when you wake up that a storm is going to happen, that a situation is going to come, that doesn't matter. You have to put on that full armor of God each day. And so that involves things like, thanking God for even waking up in the morning. It involves things like having that devotional time, where you just have a moment of intimacy, even if it's just 10, 15 minutes with Him, having a chance to talk to Him and take in some of His word for the day, figuring out how you're going to apply it throughout the course of the day. So that way, if and when something happens, yeah, it might shake you up a little bit. It may knock you back a couple of steps, but it doesn't take you out because you were already girded up. You already had all the full armor on. You took the time, and as you said, and I've had similar experiences where when I didn't do it, or if I rushed through it, or if I just skimmed over it here and there, it does impact just how your day goes, even if it's just nothing more than just the calm or the peace of the day. The things that would have normally, just you know rolled off of you, now all of a sudden they agitate you a little bit more because you weren't armored up, you weren't ready, you didn't get your heart and your mind right for the day. And so I always love and like to point out when people say, no, I this is my routine, whether it's a good day, whether it's a rough day, it doesn't matter. I'm ready. And then I like the fact that when you use your mom's passing as an example, because I too was very very close to my mom, and I've often told people it was the most devastating time of my life, but at the same time it was also one of the greatest blessings in my life And on the blessing side, it was about, to what you said, I know where she's at. I know she's no longer suffering. I know she's at peace. In fact, she's better off now. She's better off than I am. She good. Um, but like you said, when you've had that close bond and that person has poured into you and loved on you and prepared you, because that was always her dream, and I'm sure just from hearing you talk about your mom, I'm sure the dream was similar. It was like, I just want to know that when I shut my eyes, you're gonna be okay. My mom used to tell me, I know you're gonna be sad. I know you're gonna be. It's gonna hit you, and I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, I want you to live your life, and I want you to do big and great things. I make me proud. All the stuff that they want to feel like all the sacrifices that were made, all the work that was put in, all the effort it wasn't just going to waste. That I did what I did, and God can, when He sees my face, He'll say, "Job well done." You did your thing. You took what you had and you made the most of it, and you did it without complaint. You did it without, fussing and fighting. You were thankful. You were appreciative, and so those same things have been poured into you. Combine that with your relationship with God, and it just allows you that even in the most difficult of times, it allows you to just have a peace about it. Again, you have your moment. I shed some tears. I felt some kind of way, but I can now laugh. I can smile. You miss your mom still, but missing and is different now, because now you reflect on the good times that you had, not so much the absence of them no longer being here, and that carries over into a number of different, even into you being an entrepreneur. You said that was something you always wanted to do. Without a relationship with God, without putting on that full armor of God each day, you can't do entrepreneurship. I've said on a number of occasions, there's a difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner to me, and it's more than just the technical definitions of it. I feel like entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is about creating, being a creative person. You're not. I didn't just open up a store. I'm creating an experience. I'm creating a service that's supposed to be uniquely different than everything else. 'Cause it's my way. It's my version of doing that particular service. And I look at entrepreneurship as a ministry. That's a ministry, and for any ministry, you got to be prepared for that. There's another layer of skin, a toughness that's got to be upon you. You got to be cut from a different cloth to do that. And it's more than just the challenges of running it all, and the money that's involved and all. It's bigger than that. It's about purpose. It's about your why. Why am I doing this? And am I operating in a spirit of integrity? The people that I hire, the people that I do business with, when they speak of me, what do they say about me? How do they value what I give them as an individual, as an entrepreneur, in the services and the products that I provide? What is that experience that they take away? That's what matters. That's what, when you know that you change, when you impact it, whatever it is that you do. When I know that I impacted in what I did, and a person felt like they didn't just go through the motions of experiencing me, but they have something that is long lasting, then that's a whole nother level. And so that's why everything, the whole build up, all these years of life, leads you to this point, allows you to be a successful entrepreneur, allows you to be a woman of God, allows you to be a strong wife and a mom, and all of the things that you need to be. It's the total package of it all that it would never be had you not gone through those storms of life, had you not had to deal with some of those rocky waves and strong winds and all the other stuff that comes along with that life throws at us. So, I think it's so important for us to highlight that, and I'm glad that you've been doing so vulnerably, so transparently, because again, our listeners need to hear this, and many of them are dealing with these kind of challenges, and just because of the way that you've shared this evening, it's kind of helping them process and sort it out. And again, like we talked about earlier, the light bulbs come on. Okay, the aha moments. Okay, now I get it. Now I have a better understanding as to how am I supposed to take this and move forward in life, to make it the fullest that it can be, for whatever time that God is granting me to be on this earth to do what He's created for me to do. So appreciate that. Um, so, Keena, when you reflect back on all that life has shown you, again, the highs, the lows, everything in between, decisions made, adventures experienced, and whatnot, if you could sit across the table from younger Keena, Keena who didn't have the affirmations that she wanted to have growing up, didn't, had to deal with some bullying, had some self-esteem issues, at one point was chasing the life of the world and not chasing God. When you reflect on all of that, and what it's meant to you, and to the point that you're at right now, if you could sit across the table from her and impart some words of wisdom, some words of encouragement, what would you say to her that you believe, had younger Keena known, it might have helped her to be able to navigate some of those paths of life, some of those challenges, some of those things that she didn't see in herself? She might have seen it a little bit clearer, with a more positive attitude, a more positive perspective. What would you say to her, as well as what would you say to our listeners who are tuning in, that they're dealing with some of the stuff that you had to go through in your younger years, and even perhaps in your early adulthood years, and they're struggling, they're just looking for something to grab hold to make those first steps in being able to overcome, just like you were able to? What would that be for you? What would that message be?
Okay, I'm glad you asked. And your mother and my mother must have been talking because she said the same. My mother told us the same thing. She prepared us for death. I mean, she did. She just like that first year, you just come see me. I know you're gonna be sad, but you move on with your life. I'm like, wow, okay, and we did. So, but from to me, to my younger self, I would say, Keena, your mama was right. Just do what your mother had told you to do the first time, and you probably would have avoided a lot of mistakes. But in those mistakes, you had to learn who you are. Be true to yourself. Don't be anyone else but who God made you to be. You don't have to bend, kowtow, put on a face or a mask. No, embrace who you are. And because I didn't at first. And I had, you know, trying to be this person over here, trying to be like this person over there. No, be who you are and embrace it. And then use what God gave you, your skills, your talents. Even if it's quirky to other people, it's not quirky to everybody. It's over what, 8 billion people on this earth. Probably a billion of them are children, but or so. Don't quote me on that, but I'm just, just doing this for reference. There's a audience for everyone. And who you are, you're going to draw your tribe. You're going to draw your village and embrace it and support each other and go after those big dreams. Go take those risks. Live life to the fullest. We want to get one. And don't take things personal at all, but love on anyone who even don't like you. Just love on them. Pray for them if you have to, but also not just cut people off, kind of separate yourself for those who aren't good for you at that moment. Just pray for them and you move on with your life. That's what I would tell my younger self. And have fun, even, even in the midst of some trials. But remember, your mama was right.
It's so
Yeah.
true. That is so
Mm-hmm.
true. Um, I can just recall countless. I mean, my just as you shared. I mean, and that was something I've been reflecting on the entire time that we've been together. You know, so often my mom, whether it's her voice, whether it's her face, or just the messaging, things that she shared with me, all of these years of life. Um, you be again, you'd be surprised the stuff that you actually remember. I was 7 when she told me that. I was 5 when she told me that, and it was true. You know, and again, as much as I would like to, say that, it was because my mother was a brilliant, intelligent woman, which she was, you know, the relationship, God can God can use the people who are close to you. He can identify people who he's set apart specifically for you to pour into you. They become the vessel that he speaks through to impart upon you what it is that you need to know, so that you can again excel at the highest of levels. And excelling is not always about because you make the big bucks or you've attained the big title. Excelling. When I'm talking about excelling, I'm talking about excelling in your purpose, excelling in what he created you to be, to what to do. And I love the fact that you used the description about, when you talked about, your dreams, and how sometimes it may seem quirky to people. Contrary to popular opinion or popular belief, quirky is good. Weird, strange, odd. We're not talking about it in a perverted or crazy kind of way, psycho kind of way, but that's typically how God moves when He has designated a person to walk a certain way, to do a certain thing. It's supposed to look weird. It's supposed to stand out. It's not supposed to be comparable to anything that's the norm. And people will look at you crazy. People will doubt. You must be out of your mind if you think that that's going to ever work. Who would ever buy that? Who would ever support that? That's got to be about the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But if God put it in your heart to do, there's nothing dumb about it at all. In fact, it's brilliant. In fact, it's genius. You just have to have the faith to walk in it despite the noise that's out here. Because the same people who are the noise makers, the same people who are the doubters, they'll be the same people that when you prosper in their presence, they'll be the first ones in line talking about, I always knew you was going to do it. Or if you need anything, just let me know. Well, actually, I did at one point, like your prayers, your support, your encouragement. You didn't have that for me back then. And it's cool. I'm good with it because you didn't understand what I understood. I don't wish anything bad upon you. In fact, I wish you well. I pray that your endeavors, whatever they may be, go well. But
Right. Yeah.
but I'm doing my thing, and I encourage you to do yours. And that's it. The whole idea, as you stated earlier, about the making sure that that circle is right, whether it's the people that you're bringing in and the people that you're keeping
Yeah.
out of it.
Mhm. It's so important because even though I said that I got close to God, but also God put people in my path to support me that brought me to where I am now. I had like spiritual mentors even when I was in college, and she led us through a series of bondage breaker. We went through that with her and like breaking off generational curses and agreements that's not of God off our lives and our bloodline. But also when I became an adult and on my own, in my career, cooking up with this church and these group of people, and even to this day at our church, it's like, wow, people are pouring into me. I'm pouring into others. It's like, oh my God, the circle is so important. That support it has to be there. And no one's an island. My mother always said that. No one's an island. You're gonna need people
Hmm.
and ask God for those people.
So true.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had
No,
to say
no,
that.
no, not at all. Not at all. You're speaking. You're dropping nuggets. You're speaking wisdom that we need to hear, and it's definitely so true. We need to embrace it. We need to grab hold to it because this is how we need to do life. This is how we need to experience life, to truly experiencing it to the fullest, to achieve that happiness, that peace, that joy, that calm, um, that that sense of accomplishment each day, the looking forward to the next day. Instead of getting up dreading, what's before you, but instead replacing that with an excitement, on how you can get out here and do great and magnificent and awesome things. It's just a different. It's about perspective. It's about relationship, and you connect all of those things together, and just God, like I said, He just shows out. He shows out in your life, and He allows you to be a blessing to so many other people. So this is good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And but the message of the show, the U-turn, like I said, I was angry with God, even in my youth into my late early adult life. I didn't want nothing to do with God because of He took my father. That
Hmm.
was it. How can someone who loved me do that to me? But I did a U-turn. I wanted to tie that into your show. I did
Hmm.
a U-turn and I'm not going back.
Yeah. In fact, what you did, you tied it into your show. It's just a
Yeah.
platform, but it's your show, and you gave us what it means to make a U-turn. It is more than just a sign on a street, but it's something that can apply to life. Sometimes we have to make a U-turn. Sometimes we have to turn away from the things that are distractions. Sometimes we have to make a U-turn from people who don't mean us well. Sometimes we have to
Right.
U-turn away from toxic
Hmm.
stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and turn to, as a result of that you turn to that which is going to be edifying, that is what's going to be encouraging, that which is going to be uplifting, that which is going to be positive. That's what we're you turning towards. And so, simple word, simple title, but impactful to your message for this evening, and definitely appropriate. So, um, we there's just what it is. It's one of those moments of, when you make that U-turn and truly understand what that means. It's one of those, if you know you know kind of moments. So, um, appreciate that. Uh, Keena, has been a phenomenal time talking with you. As to my listeners, obviously I know Keena. Like I said, we attend church together. I know her family, but we've never had an opportunity to have this level of conversation, and so it just adds another layer of building that relationship and understanding the true value and special person that you are, and it just it ramps up, if you will, why these type of connections are great to have, why it's great to have a sister in Christ like this, because not only is she here to encourage my listeners, but she's encouraging me. Things that you've said, whether you realize it or not,
Oh,
I need to hear. I need to be reminded, because I don't have it all figured out all the time. I don't know all the right things to say and do all the time, and sometimes you just need, as I've said a number of times before, sometimes the encourager needs to be encouraged. And so you bless me, you bless my listeners, and I'm grateful for that. I don't take it lightly, and I'm just thankful that you were willing to accept the invite to be here for this short time together, and pour into us as you have. But as is customary here on the Blessings in the Streets podcast, I do want to take an opportunity to love on you, to celebrate you, to lift you up. So if you would, please share with us anything that you got going on now or that's coming up down the road. We want to hear all about it, how to be connected to it, support it. And if nothing more, we just want to keep you lifted up in prayer, and what it is that you got going on and how God is using you. So
okay.
please let us know what do we need to be checking out and staying in touch with when it comes to Keena Nelson, and how God is using her.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you, Joseph, for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. What I have going on, well, as you stated earlier, I am a published author now. I was like, what? I'm like, I saw that in my future, but not as fast. Maybe some years down the road. But I have a book coming out. I'm a contributing author with other wonderful ladies. It's called Redefining Success Beyond the Grind, and that will be available on March 24th. And we do have a virtual launch party, and I'll have a link on my website. People can reach me at KeenaNelson.com. Excuse me, or you can send me an email at hello@KeenaNelson.com. And I'm also a clarity coach. I help women to gain clarity, confidence, and strategies to launch and grow their businesses without the overwhelm or the confusion. So I started coaching. I actually do coaching in my career, but didn't think that was a thing I can do outside. But I just love doing it just to help other people. And God has blessed me with that, and I've met some the main author of the book through that connection. I had did a virtual summit about 2 years, almost about 2 years ago, and we've been connecting ever since. And she thought of me. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it! Really, you want me to be an author just to tell my entrepreneur story? So you have to read the book to get more ideas. And there's some other segments in the book that I help women, and that book is tailored towards women to go after what you want and how we did it. And that is my celebration. I'm on a high from that still, and that's where they can find me. And I'm also on social media under my name, Keena Nelson. So you can reach me through Facebook, Instagram, Threads. So that's what I've been doing. And I'm actually learning another skill. It's called a transaction and listing coordination for real estate to help real estate agents in, serving their clients and getting homes or commercial real estate. So I'm learning that, and that will launch most likely in April or May of this year. So I haven't determined my date yet. So I love a challenge. God knows I love challenges. So I always wanted to be in real estate, but not a real estate agent. So that is my forte because I'm a behind the scenes girl. May not seem like it, but I am, and I'm always there to lift somebody else up. If I can do that behind the scenes, I'm your girl. That's me.
I say she's being kind and she's been kind of kind and shy like or whatever because when she's singing on that stage in church on Sunday, it's one of the voices that I do recognize that I can hear. So I like to be in the background. I'm not quite
Oh,
sure about that, but we're gonna roll with that for tonight. We're gonna let you slide with that.
thank you, thank you.
But again, Keena, thank you so much for being with us this evening.
It's
And,
been a
and to my
pleasure.
audience, yes, yes. If you've been blessed, if you've enjoyed our broadcast this evening, if you've been encouraged and uplifted by what was discussed, please do share, comment, like, subscribe, because this is what the Blessings in the Streets podcast is all about. We want to pour into, uh, you know, each of our listeners in a way that's transparent and vulnerable, stripping away all of the layers and just really just being open because again, everybody deals with challenges. Everybody goes through storms of life, but at the end of the day, the thing that matters the most is who are you connected with? Who is your source? And being connected with Christ is like nothing that is comparable to anything else. And if you don't currently have that type of relationship, today is a mighty fine day to make that decision. And I promise you, it'll be the greatest decision that you will ever make. Life changing, game changing on so many levels. He loves you unconditionally. He wants nothing but the best for you. He desires for you to give it all to him, and so he can just show you how mighty, how awesome, how wonderful he is. Not only blessing you, but using you as a tool to be a blessing to other people. So get a hold of it now. He has plenty of love to go around for everybody. Um, we're not telling you something that we heard. We're telling you something that we know from firsthand experience. So again, don't let another moment go by without establishing that relationship and just watch God just do wonderful and awesome things. So with that said, remember here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and I thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, keep fighting that good fight. Keep leaning into God, trusting, believing in Him, just allowing Him to guide your steps, covering you in everything that you touch and do. And if you do that, I promise you, you will never regret it. Life will be phenomenal for you on so many levels. And again, you will be such an impactful and powerful blessing to so many others. So, with that said, you have a great rest of your evening. We thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.